Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to have you. You should have access to the chat where you can say hello to everyone. Please tell us where you're tuning in from. We're excited to have you on this ADA Sprint, accessible by design. And we will be getting started in just a few minutes. Awesome. Okay, everyone. It looks like we are ready to get started. Very excited to be joining you today. I'm not going to turn my camera on, a little bit under the weather, but I am here listening. And we have two wonderful experts from Instructure that are here to kind of guide us through some best practices when it comes to ADA and the Canvas LMS. So we have our favorite partner, Kylie Pugh, and our new partner, Nikki Ditmore, who will be leading us through this session. And of course, we've got the great Alyssa Coates, our web accessibility coordinator here at the system, to help field any questions that you might have. And the wonderful Ann McKisson is joining us today too. So let's get started. Turning it over to you, Kylie.
We are going to work backwards today. So we are going to go over the most recent updates that Canvas has made for native accessibility. So this is included in your subscription. This is, anything that you can access, but I do want to be clear. I know you guys have different accessibility tools. So this is just Canvas specific. If Nikki or I redirect you, it's probably because that's something that your other tool does. So I am actually going to work straight from a Canvas course that I have. This is a demo course, so this is one that I use for testing a lot. You'll see here on the left-hand side that there is an accessibility button. Now, this is where things can get a smidge confusing from time to time because there is Ally accessibility, there's Use Panorama accessibility, there is UDoIT, Tidy Up. There's a lot of tools. So the native Canvas one only says accessibility. And when you click on it, you are going to be prompted for this screen. You can scan your course by hitting this button right here, or you can scan your course by hitting it up here. So we're going to scan and we're going to give it a minute. I do want to be transparent here that the native Canvas checker is only going to be checking these issues right here, and it's going to be checking pages, assignments, discussion posts, announcements, and the syllabus. So that's not going to be checking if you have simple syllabus or you leverage a third-party tool. This is all native content to Canvas. So the filters here that you see before we get into the actual data, this is going to allow you to go through and get some pretty granular data if you're looking at, hey, what have I fixed or when did I edit last? Especially if you have a course that has running enrollment that just keeps going and going and going. For me, I teach in terms, and so it's easy for me to say, okay, this is good once I've checked spring term. Everything's fine. But if you have continuing enrollment, that can feel really messy. These dates here allow you to filter through and say, all right, it's March 25th today. I probably checked this course last in December when the semester was starting. Let me check it again for any new content that I might have added. So you can go through and fix these dates. You can also go through and say, I don't want to check all of these at once. That feels a little bit overwhelming. Today, this week, whatever it is, I just want my syllabus to be checked. I'm going to go through. Great. Your syllabus has nothing that needs to be fixed. Beautiful. Let me add in announcements and see what's there. No issues there either. Love it. So you can continue to go through to make this more digestible. I'm going to apply that filter again so that we see all of them. You also have checking your published or unpublished content. I have had people ask, why would you check your unpublished content if no one can see it? Personally, I like to check all of it because there is without a doubt the one time that I think that I'm good to go and something's not published and it is, or a student accesses it, or I have a TA that accidentally publishes something. I find that it's better not to leave it up for chance and just to check everything all at once. Now, these are all of the different issues that we are checking here. You'll notice that in this list that we are not checking third-party tools. So we're not checking your PDFs. We're not checking your PowerPoint presentations. We're not checking publisher content. Again, just native content. However, if you are looking to make something more digestible, either for yourself, for your faculty, however it works, you can say, hey, rather than checking all of these things, let's just for week one, we only check alt text. And you can go through and say, awesome, 3 issues feels way more digestible than 30 issues. That is how I like to do it, especially if faculty feel overwhelmed or if I feel overwhelmed by my own course. This is a way to make that more manageable and to break it up into little chunks. So I'm going to go ahead and apply for all just so that we can go through here and see. All of these are going to have published, unpublished, and they're going to let you know that this was last edited on this date. If there's no issues, that's fine. When I have an issue, I will be able to go up and click, and I just want to hit fix. So the first issue that I have here, I can open the page and it will take me over here to show me exactly what I'm looking at. If you are looking at this and you're like, I don't even know where this is in my course, I've never seen this, something like that. You can also immediately go into edit the page yourself. And it'll bring open, instead of just looking at the page kind of broadly, you'll be able to see, okay, this is what it's talking about. This is what it looks like. We will go back, and here, the table should include a caption describing the contents of the table. Awesome. This table shows student firing scores. I'm going to add that caption. I'm going to hit save and move on to the next. Now you'll see here that the first issue from that got fixed, but I still have one more issue on this, and that's that my table headers aren't aligned. Which part of the table should contain the headings? I'm going to say both, and then I'm going to set the headings. And again, save and next. I've fixed all of the accessibility issues on that particular page. For the next resource, again, I have this option to caption. Now you'll see a button down here that does allow you to skip. I don't recommend skipping, but if you needed to, you certainly could. For this, I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, let's skip. And I want to look at one that has an alt text issue. So I'm actually going to get out of this and say, just show me alt text. And let's go in and fix this. Now you'll see here, you have an option that I can say this image is just decorative, or I can go through and type what the alt text really should say, which is a description of the image. Now, this one here, I'm handwriting that, and if you've gone through accessibility training, you know that 150 characters is usually the limit. Anything more than 150 characters, usually you want to move down and have a description box underneath. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to say this image is actually just decorative and hit apply. And again, save and next and move on. And you can go through as quick, apply, save and next, or as slow as you need to. This will keep track of everything that you've done. You'll be able to go through as many times as you need to. And boom, all of the alt text for my entire course is now taken care of. I can go back and clear my filters, and I still have quite a few issues with tables or missing headers and things, but all of the accessibility functionality in this screen are going to work through that same way of hitting fix, making the change that you need, and hitting save and next. Now I have not paid attention to the chat at all, so I will pause for a moment and make sure I haven't missed any questions. McNeese.
There's just a few questions on some who aren't able to see the accessibility checker. That's most likely due to the fact that it's not turned on in your instance. So you would want to work with your Canvas admin who manages the instance to enable that. If you do have a third-party tool, it could be that I see there's some comments saying you have Panorama. Then most likely the decision was made maybe not to have that on, as you do have another tool, so it could cause confusion, but that's just an assumption. So if you aren't seeing it though, it is behind a feature option that you'll want to talk to your Canvas admin about.
Yeah. Okay, we answered that one live. Okay, we're not checking third-party materials such as PDF. So what I mean when I say that is that the Canvas accessibility tool cannot check third-party PDFs, PowerPoints, etc. So what your other tools do or what your individual institutions are requiring, that is kind of a separate question. I believe that Panorama can check those third-party tools, but I'm not a Panorama expert. But I more just did not want to cause confusion in saying that the Canvas accessibility checker could check all of those things because it cannot at this time. What you see and what it checks right now is exactly what the Canvas accessibility checker can do. What Panorama can do or other third-party tools can do, I can't speak to that. But for Instructure, we are not checking those things, but that does not mean that they are not included in any audits or any state legislature or anything like that. Okay. Any other? Okay. Panorama. Panorama. Okay. Yes. I will say too, to Nikki's point, that we had some institutions that chose not to turn on the native accessibility checker because they already had that third-party tool. They didn't want to create any confusion or add any extra work to what you all are already doing or potentially could be doing. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Nikki walk you through what the accessibility checker looks like just in the RCE.
Actually, I might have you share your screen since
Okay,
your course looks much nicer than mine does.
I certainly can.
So
Okay.
fine. And again, just to reiterate, these all are just all native tools within Canvas. There is going to be certain functionality that your third party that you have a Panorama is going to do, other things. This is just native to Canvas. So if you find you have a use case for it, that's what we're showing you today. So on top of the course accessibility checker, we also have a course or a rich content editor accessibility checker tool. It's a very simple tool and it does things like identify adjacent links, headings, issues, images, text contrasts. It's very simple and designed to ensure that course content is accessible by looking for various issues. So Kylie, if you want to click on that little guy right there within the rich content editor, when you're building content in Canvas, so again, want to emphasize this is not going to check files that are uploaded. This is just native content you're building within an assignment, a quiz, things like that. So you can see it'll sit at the RCE. It'll show you two issues with the content. It'll give you that little indicator. When you click it, it will open in the side panel. It will say what the issue is. Obviously, we need to add a caption to this, and then you can add that caption or fix the issue or add the suggestion and then apply it directly within that tool. And then when you're done, it'll give you those lovely balloons and say no more issues are detected. So as I mentioned, it's very simple. You just use it within that space and it will just help with those smaller issues. You can use the course accessibility checker to check native content across the entire course. This is just when you're building content to ensure you're meeting those standards.
Awesome. Okay, I will stop sharing for a moment and then Susan had a question. But I don't think I see it in the QA.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a question either.
She has her hand up. So, Susan,
Oh,
I'm
Oh,
gonna,
can't see. Sorry.
yeah, no, you're fine. Susan, I'm gonna press to allow you to talk, and you can tell us what your question is.
there we go. Now I see it.
Susan, you're gonna have to unmute for us to hear you.
Okay, now?
Yes.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm probably jumping the gun, and this is probably what you meant when you said Canvas doesn't check third-party content. But for example, I attach a copy of a residential lease put out by a third party, Louisiana Realtors Association. There is no way except for maybe Panorama to turn that into an accessible document. In other words, I put it in my module and I upload it as a PDF. If I can convert it to a Word document, I do that. but that's not sufficient. Is that correct?
That is correct. So I'll show an example here right now. So this is my syllabus, right?
Right.
It's embedded. It's an embedded image. But because it's an embedded content, it's not something that I typed out inside of Canvas. It's not going to be able to check. So it will check these words that I'm typing, but it will not be able to scan the image or the PDF or anything else that I've uploaded into it. But I do
Okay.
believe that Yuja or whatever other third-party tool will be able to check that.
Okay,
But
because outside content is still required to be accessible, right, under the law?
yes, yes, it is.
Oh, Lord, what a nightmare. Okay, thank you so much.
Yep,
Appreciate that.
absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt everybody.
No, you're
Thank
fine.
you, Susan.
For Um, okay, I'm gonna cancel this really quick. I am also gonna show one more spot where you can go through, and that's gonna be the link validator. So this is a little bit accessibility, but also just course access. So under settings, you have the ability to go and run a scan on your entire course and make sure that all of your links work the way that they should. So I'm going to start the link validator, and this will go through and find anything that's unreachable, broken, going to create a 404, you name it, in your course and allow you to go through and fix those in real time wherever they exist. So this might take a minute. I teach an actual course. This is a copy of course that I actually teach. So when I import it over here, a lot of the links don't work because they're institution specific. So I'm curious to see what it pops up. But this is just another area of access for you all to go through and validate your content. Is there any way I can see my video? I'm not sure, Brianna, that I understand your question about the video.
Hey, Kylie, that's for me. I got it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, just kidding. I was like, I'm not sure. This is going to take a minute, but while this is loading, are there any other questions, comments, concerns about just native Canvas functionality or the accessibility checker or the link validator or the little accessibility person in the RCE? My hope is that it's so simple that no one has questions and not that it's too complex and that's why no one has questions. The link validator is in settings. So I'm going to click out of this and it's probably going to cancel my link validation. But if you go to your course settings, validate links in content, and then you can restart it, but it will show you any broken links. You'll see here that there's a ton. So you'll go ahead and you'll be able to click and say, all right, why isn't this? Where does this go? What is this link? All of these are because the school that I teach at leverages Panopto. So all of my videos do not come into my Instructure sandbox. But it will pull all of them up for you and let you know exactly where they're at, so that you can go through and then fix and say, hey, the link does not work here. Couldn't find the valid settings for this link. When you use the link validator, the reason it might catch it for other Canvas pages outside of the course, the reason it's going to work for you is probably because it is your course, but it's not going to work for a student because a student is not going to have access to your other course. So if I were to go to my dashboard, we'll pretend this is my dashboard because my actual dashboard looks silly here. I have access to all the courses that I've ever taught. And so any links that I click on are going to work for me to bounce between them, but they're not going to work for a student who doesn't have access to my previous class or previous content. So that's why the links are getting flagged that way. That's because anybody but you is going to have that issue.
All right, everyone. Any other questions for our Instructure partners? All right, friends. Well, it
Quick and
always
easy.
makes me nervous when you don't have questions, but it must mean that we had some excellent content presented. Please join us again next week. We will have two of our wonderful colleagues from the University of Louisiana at Lafayette joining us to talk about ADA compliance and STEM. So, equations, notations, all of your questions may or may not be answered, but we can at least try. So, see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to our partners, and thank you to our ASL interpreter. Have a
Thanks,
good week,
everybody.
guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.